Okay, so we're finishing up this section today. And as you know, this is back to the first page. So this whole section is our kind of media section of the Montana information. We've spent the last couple days working on DOR stuff with SIT. Today we're going to spend turn our attention to unemployment insurance. So I think that should be about halfway through. Can you shut that door for me, David? A lot of people out in the hallway. Okay, here we are. SUTA. Okay, so here are the steps that we're going to go through. Since this isn't a withholding tax, what do I mean by that? SUTA isn't a withholding tax, it's a what? It's an employer tax, right? Because I don't take SUTA from people's checks, I don't withhold it. So there's not really, per se, a deposit rule. Rather, I just file a quarterly report and I send my money in with it. So there's really only two steps to SUTA. One is you have to register for it, and the second is you have to prepare the report and send in your money with it. So, jumping right in, the first question people are going to ask is, how is my rate established? And do you remember on your chart what the, from what to what is SUTA rates? What's the highest SUTA rate in Montana? Anybody have that little chart handy? It's somewhere in the six range. Okay. So let me just explain this to you because this is 6.1. 6.1. Okay. So here's the scoop. Every year, based upon actuarial soundness, anybody know what that means? Actuarial soundness.
Whenever you said an actuary, like a super accountant.
Yeah, yeah. An actuary is an actuary has a PhD in stats, essentially, and they do all the modeling for insurance. Workers' comp has actuaries on staff. Life insurance companies have actuaries on staff. SUTA depends upon an actuarial analysis. And so what they do is they go into the account and say, how much have people paid in? How much have we paid out? You need to have a pool, a reserve fund. And then based upon all of that, they publish a schedule for the next year. And this isn't for individual people. This is just the big overview. And then each individual employer has a whole nother set of things they need to go through. So what I'm talking about here is just the rate schedule for the entire trust fund. And it says here, so the trust fund balance here was $320 million. The covered wages, it were 12 billion. Is that right in Montana? Yeah, that's 12 billion. So they get a ratio. So the actuaries do all this. You don't need to know this, but what you do need to know it as a student, but you wouldn't be concerned with this per se as an employer. They calculate this ratio and then they go down and they publish one of these 11 rate schedules. And obviously, if the fund is doing really well, in other words, there's lots of money in it and there's very little unemployment, it's going to be a lower set of rate schedules. And in this example, and so there's eligible employers and deficit employers that come underneath the rate schedule. And let me tell you what that is. So an eligible employer is somebody who has paid more money into his or her individual account than has been paid out. Okay, another name for that is a surplus employer. So obviously you want to be that, because if you're that, then you're going to get lower rates, right? Because that's a good thing. If you're a deficit employer, that means that you've paid your account, not the whole trust fund now, your account has paid out more in benefits than it's brought in. So do you see what I'm talking about? There's this macro thing of everybody, and then there's your individual calculation. So if the state of Montana publishes rate schedule number 1, you then are going to be assigned a rate class for deficit or a rate class for eligible. And obviously you can see if the trust fund isn't doing very well, they're going to probably publish something up here, and then the rates are going to go up for everybody. Yep, these guys up here are what the whole state of Montana publishes. And then everybody, each individual employer in the entire state of Montana falls, like if in one of these rate classes as a deficit or an eligible. That's based on the individual company.
So theoretically, it would be 0%.
If you're an eligible employer and you're in rate class 1, which is like my company. It's just me. I've been, doing my CPA business for 29 years. I've never had an employee. I've never had a claim. I mean, I would be a rate class 1 eligible employer. There would be no reason for me to pay SUTA because I'm never going to claim from it. Okay, so that's step 1. Then, so that's step 1. Then how is each employer determined? And then that's based on, like I said, how much have you paid in, how much has been charged to your account, and then the balance is your reserve. So say I'm Fuddruckers, right? Fuddruckers just closed after however many years, probably 25 years here, 30 years maybe, probably 25. And they probably had, 30 or 40 employees. Every single one of those people, if they'd worked there in their base period, which we'll look at in a second, would file an unemployment claim, right? So obviously Fuddruckers has not paid enough in this year to cover everybody's claim. So their reserve would be negative, wouldn't it? So that's a bad example because they're shut. So they're not going to have any SUTA bills in the future because they're out of business. But if they had, that's a horrible example. Let's use another example. So when I went to college here, the mills, we had a couple big mills in Montana, and they ran 24 hours a day. They had 3 8-hour shifts a day, right? Then they cut back about the time I graduated, probably 85, 86, from 3 shifts a day to 2 shifts a day. Then in the early 90s, they went from 2 shifts a day to 1 shift a day, and then they eventually shuttered. As they were ratcheting back the number of shifts that they ran per day, obviously people were flooding unemployment, right? And so their rates were going up. And that's one of the things that's really tough is as companies are shutting down, slowly ratcheting down, their overhead's going up because their SUTA rate's going up. Okay. And again, in Montana, there are 3 types of accounts. You're eligible, which we just looked at, i.e. surplus. You're deficit, i.e. in the hole, or you're a new employer. And eligible employers, you've paid wages in one of the 8 preceding calendar quarters, and you've got a positive balance. Deficit, we've talked about that. And so these are old numbers. Our 2018 tax wage base that we're using is 33,000, is that correct? 32,000, thank you. Okay, so 32,000. Okay, so here's what you have to do first. You have to register. We used to be able to just do one registration form for both SIT and SUTA, but that's no longer acceptable. You have to do a whole separate registration form. So just to kind of put this all in one place, can somebody walk me through as a new employer what you would all have to fill out to get established? What's one piece of paper you'd have to fill out to get established as a new employer? Yes, so what's the piece of paper? Or it's digital, I guess. Yep, you'd have to fill out an SS4. What's another thing you'd have to do? Register for Montana state income tax withholding. What's another thing you'd have to do? This, register for SUTA. And the last thing you have to do is register for workers' comp. So that's really the 4 things that you need to do to get established. Okay, so there's nothing fancy here other than it's really, you've got to put all the different owners and partners and corporate officers. And the most important part of this is in 14. Description of the business type and activity. This section must be completed in detail to accurately determine your business activity for the proper assignment of contribution rates. So, are you in ag? Are you in wholesale? Are you transportation, mining? What are you in? And if you do more than one thing, like say you have a retail storefront for computers, but then you also service them, you would say retail, computers, and that's 60% of my gross income. And then service, service computers is the other 40% of my income. So you want them to assign you a new employer rate that really represents what it is that you do. Okay, and then you get to have that new employer rate for a year, and then based upon what I just showed you, whether you're a surplus employer or a deficit employer, in the next year, your rate's gonna change and go up or down. Okay, so that's the registration, and then here's the instructions. Again, I'm going through all this. You need to, are you guys going home and looking over these forms and okay, good. So you don't want to be just doing that all right before finals. I mean, as I'm talking about this, make sure that you go through that section and spend a little bit more time, because I'm just kind of briefly going through these. So what we're going to spend time on today is because this is part of your assignment number 2, is taking a look at the unemployment insurance quarterly wage report. So this is what you send in. You send it in quarterly, so it's due the last day of the month following the close of the quarter. Does that sound familiar? What else is due the last day of the month following the close of the quarter? 9/41, right? And 9/41 is due. So I'm going to put this up here so that Jess can see it. Great. So let's go, let me just put this flex cam on. I'm going to give you some wages and some examples, and we're going to try and fill out this form. So what I think you should do you have it in front of you? Okay, can you just replicate it on a piece of paper? In other words, really step 2 and step 3. So let's see. So that's step 2, right? First, Social Security, gross, and then excess. Oh. So I'm going to give you some information, and we're going to get it on the form. Calculators on there. Okay. No, I don't need an Uber. I need my calculator. There we go. So let's say I've got 4 employees. So now I'm going to go down here and just give you some information. Then we're going to go fill that out, okay? So I've got 4 employees. Andy Smith and Joan. And I'm going to be doing my third quarter SUTA. And we're going to again make this assumption that's, may or may not be accurate, but just because I've got to do something, that they're paid monthly. And I'm going to give you their monthly wages. So let me just do this quickly. Okay. Andy makes $4,500 a month. Joan makes $2,900 a month. Linda makes $8,000 a month. And Lucy makes $43.90 a month. Okay.
Lucy's last name?
Oh, Samuelson, but that's not right. It is. You're filling out the form, but really what I'm trying to get to is the membership. So now let's just walk through the thought process here. We've got 4 people. They're paid monthly, and we're doing our third quarter SUTA report. When do I stop paying SUTA on them? Once they hit 32,000. So before we can do the third quarter SUTA report, what do I have to figure out? Yeah, if they hit the cap, so give me specifically what I need to calculate. Yes, I've got to figure out what their prior year-to-date gross is. In other words, what have they earned before they got into the third quarter? So that, I want you to set up 2 calculations. What have they earned before the third quarter, and then what did they earn in the third quarter? Are you with me? What have they earned up until today, and then what did they earn in the third quarter? Okay, so Andy has earned how much before today? Yep, and how much does he earn this quarter? Okay, so what's going to happen to Andy in the third quarter? He's going to cap. Okay, so that's one situation. How much has Joan earned before today? 17.4. And how much is she going to earn in the third quarter? Oop. Times 3. How much? Okay, so is Joan going to cap? No. Okay, and then Linda has earned how much? And then how much is she earning in the third quarter? 24. So what's her situation? She's already capped. So we have three different things here, right? We have somebody that's gonna cap in the third quarter. We've got somebody that isn't gonna cap in the third quarter. And then we've got somebody that's capped before we even get there. Okay, and then my last person has earned 26,340 before today. No. And what's happening with Lucy? She's another one that's gonna cap in the third quarter. Everyone agree? Okay, so now just to reinforce what we're gonna go do, based on that analysis, we're gonna go fill out section 2 and then section 3. So back here, we did set this up so that we can basically replicate the, go ahead. Yeah. So they are paid 3 times in a quarter. So I'm just taking their monthly wage and multiplying by 3. Did you get these numbers, Michaela, the priors? Yeah. Yeah, so that was 2 quarters worth, so you multiply by 6. Now in the third quarter, it's just 3 paychecks. Okay. So go ahead, fill in the names up here. We don't need to muck around with social security numbers. Set of John, Greer, Linda, and Samuelson. Lucy, right? And then of course you'd have, in the real world, you'd have in the social security numbers. Why does that keep doing that? Stop it. Makes me feel a little crazy. Okay, the titles of the next 2 columns ask for gross wages, and then what's the exact title on the form called? Excess wages?
Excess wages this quarter.
Excess wages this quarter. So under the gross, what do you think they're asking for? Yeah, the third quarter wages. So plug in the third quarter wages and total that column up to the bottom. And then you got to go down, there's a total. The next thing it asks for is how much of this number, right? How much of these third quarter numbers are over $32,000? How are you going to figure that out for Andy Smith? How much of that 13.5 is over 32 grand? Yep, so he's at 27,000, right? And he's adding another 13.5 on. So if I subtract 32,000, 8,500 of his 13.5 this quarter is over 32 grand. So what I did everybody see how I did that math? Okay, let's try again. So no, you're fine. So 27,000 is what I've made before today, plus another 13.5, right? So now I'm at 40,500. I want to know how much is that over 32,000. So now I'm going to subtract the cap. $8,500. How much of Joan's wages are over 32,000? None of them, because she hasn't gotten to 32,000. How much of Linda Greer's are over 32,000? All of it. She capped before she ever got to this quarter. And then figure out Lucy's, please. Total that up, and then we'll go to step 3. Did you get 7510? Anybody need me to rework the numbers? Okay, so total excess wages and obviously this number has got to be smaller than this number. And you've got to do this before you can prep the top, because otherwise how are you going to know what the excess is? So what we did down here doesn't go on the tax return anywhere. It's just a schedule you have to do in order to prepare it, right? Okay, now, is everyone with me? Okay, now let's go take a look at getting section 3 done, which basically is going to back into how much do I owe. Okay, so then just make like a little step 3 on your paper. Just write 1 through 10, you don't need to write out all the words. And fill it in. And just following the instructions. You're trying to get down to line 10, which is how much money am I sending you? Yes, the SUTA rate was 3.6. And that would be pre-printed on your form. How much do you think I need to write a check for?
696.86.
I agree. So basically, line 1 says, what were your gross wages? And we've tallied that up. Well, how much of that number was over 32 grand? We tallied that up. And therefore, the difference is how much do you have to pay SUTA on? 19,360 are my SUTA wages. They're going to pre-print the rate. And I don't have any adjustments or credits, or I didn't violate, so that's what I write my check for. I'm going to send it to the Department of Labor and Industry. Third quarter, when's it going to be due? 10/31. This is exactly what you're going to have to do for part of assignment number 2. And that's what I wanted to spend the last 10 minutes on, is just taking a look at that. Oh, sorry. Did I not finish the whole thing here? Oh, yeah. Step 4, how many people were working on, so third quarter would be what? August, September, no, July, August, September. How many people were working on July 12th? How many people were working on August 12th? And how many people were working on September 12th? Sorry? If in this, yeah. Yep, in this case, everybody was working on. Okay, and then you sign it, you send a check, and there you go. So let's go back now to that other section in Moodle that holds our assignments. You've done assignment 1. Now we're on assignment 2. And I want to give you a minute to kind of look this over and try and figure out how you think you're going to set it up. Okay, so what's the situation here? We have a company, I don't even know that we know what they do. What did I say? We don't know? I don't see that we know what they do. They've got quite a few employees. They pay bi-weekly, right? So how many times a year do they pay? 26. And it looks like they are running their July 5th payroll. So it's the first payroll of the third quarter. And there are 7 pay periods in this quarter. And their wages are all subject to Montana state income tax withholding. And you're obviously going to need to look at the SIT tables to figure out how much SIT to take from each of their paychecks. They're an accelerated filer. What does that mean? They're an accelerated filer for SIT. Actually, I shouldn't have said filer. They're an accelerated depositor. What's their schedule then? Go ahead. Semi-weekly. If you pay Wednesday through Friday, you have till the next Wednesday. Saturday through Tuesday, you have till the next Friday. Okay. And again, probably not a fair assumption in most companies, but we're just assuming that each of the 7 biweekly pay periods look exactly like the data below. So, and then I've given you information from their W-4s, right? So here's what they make. Here's their gross paycheck every time payroll's run. Here's how much they made before today, all year before today. And here's their social. Then I've given you, so you're doing everything for the third quarter. I've given you data for the first 2 quarters and the last quarter. I want you to complete an MW1 for the first payroll period of the third quarter. They have to deposit each pay period. We just went through that. What's an MW1 again? You remember? Yeah, that's for Montana withholding. It's your deposit coupon for SIT. Don't say it out loud, but do you have a clear vision of how you're going to get how much you need to deposit for one payroll period? Okay. You got to go person by person, obviously. Okay, number 2. You're going to do that UI tax report, the unemployment insurance tax report that we just did. And all the information you need is here. Right? You've got to take the earnings per pay period and convert it to quarterly, obviously. Then I want you to complete the MW3. This is the annual transmittal that goes with the MW2s. Or with the W-2, excuse me. You do not need to complete the bottom portion of the form. So here's your MW1. Here's your MW3. I've pre-printed it so you can just go in and actually print these out and then just fill them in by hand. Obviously, you're not going to type them. And remember I told you that they make you write down every single payroll? That's just busy work, so I'm not going to have you do that. You're going to complete up here how much income was the gross for all year, how much SIT was withheld all year, and it's a reconciliation. And then you're going to do their unemployment insurance report, and here's their rate. And you can just print this out and fill it in. So those are the 3 documents that are due on Monday when we return, which is the 2nd of December. Feels crazy to even say that. Okay, and then lastly, if you care to do any questions on this? Lastly, if you care to do extra credit, there's 10 points available, and it says, in the DOR-DOLI section of the Montana Payroll Handbook, you will find a series of letters from FARA Philly to the Department of Labor and Industry. Choose one of them. I'm going to show you where they are. You choose one letter. You don't do all of them. On behalf of the UI division and answer it in letter format. The points assigned to your letter will be allocated 7 points to substance and 3 points to writing. And don't forget an introduction and a concluding paragraph. So if you choose to do this, that's also due on Monday the 2nd. And you would go to this section that we were just in and go down to this series of letters from FARA Philly at Queen High Dudette Ranch. I didn't make these up. And you choose one of them and respond.
Where?
They're at pages 40 through 45 in the section we were just in, section 3. If you choose this one, the potential charge notice on the next page goes with that. And the last couple minutes, I just want to talk about what a potential charge notice is. A potential charge notice is if somebody has been laid off and they go to claim, the unemployment insurance company or division is going to send you a potential charge notice, and you have 10 days to respond to it. If what they say on it, is true, yes, I laid her off due to lack of work or whatever, then you don't have any reason to respond. But if I fired her because she was stealing from me, I don't want to pay unemployment to her, so I've only got 10 days to respond to this notice. And if I don't do it in that 10 days, she's automatically granted unemployment and I don't have any recourse. So it's pretty important to respond to them in a timely manner. The other thing I want to show you, where am I? Is up here this concept of base period. If you're laid off right today, we're in November, right? If I just started my job at Ace Hardware this summer, can I claim from Ace if they lay me off right now due to lack of work? Very minimally, because they don't look at your wages in the current quarter. They don't look at wages in the prior quarter. And then they go back a full year and look at your wages. So that would be July of 18 to June of 19 is my base period. So if I just started there in like June, they're only going to pick up 1 month of wages. I'm barely going to be able to claim anything. Yeah, $50 a week. Let's try another one. If you got laid off this last August, what would your base period be? If you were laid off in August of 2019, what would your base period be? From what to what? All right, so I have to go here. I wouldn't be able to claim anything in that quarter. I wouldn't be able to claim anything in the prior quarter. I would go all the way back to April of 18 through March of 19. Are you with me? Base period. That's a very common misconception. You don't go to work for somebody for a couple months and then claim unemployment on them. Okay. So with that, happy Thanksgiving. I hope you get some rest and relaxation and.
I had a practical.
Thank you.
Practical,